All right, Mario Cristobal is here, number 16 in America, 6-0 Miami Hurricanes. What's going on, man?
A lot of work, a lot of grinding, a lot of progress. So it's Miami's really starting to take shape the way we always envisioned it would. But we got a lot of work to do, but we've come a long way. So a lot of excitement, a lot of momentum, but a lot of grinding, brother. That's the way we do things down here, and the excitement is off the charts.
That's all I'm grinding. We're going to grind through this interview. Let's start here. You know how to build a roster basically better than just about anybody in football, all levels of football, because you look at it, we did at Oregon, 3 straight conference championship games, winning the Pac-12, and now year 3 in Miami. It's getting there. It's obviously getting to where close, as you've said, to where you want to be, closer to where you want to be. I guess the question is, now with the way you can construct modern rosters, portal, high school recruiting, all of this stuff that is just so aggressively new, what is your roster building strategy?
You're going to get players wherever you can get them. And they come in all from all different kind of places. Now you've got your high school players, you've got your transfer portal players, but you've got guys overseas.
Yeah,
guys got guys up in Canada. You have junior college players, and sometimes you just find yourself a guy on a walk-on tryout on your campus that you put the clock on him. It says 4-4. Where the hell did this son of a gun come from? So, but we've layered this one. This one's kind of different because the starting point was a lot lower than some of the places we've been at. So. What we did is we brought in some really high caliber freshmen, like super elite, the highest, the best classes we've ever had at Miami. And then we layered the upper top of the roster with just some really accomplished and experienced transfer portal guys that have seen a lot of ball, played a lot of ball, a lot of heavy duty reps in some really competitive situations, conference titles, national titles. So when we took that, and we had a handful of guys that remained on the roster that were really good players as well.
Yeah.
That's like a good sandwich and a good blend, and that's where this roster is right now. But we're going to keep pushing it with high school recruiting and supplementing it with portal guys. But we're always in the JUCOs and always looking overseas where we would define them.
Yeah, it's interesting because the backbone is always going to be South Florida guys or Florida guys. I'm from Orlando. I know high school football really well in that state, but obviously Miami, Broward, Palm Beach County, it's a different deal. We have a badass board back here, which is all the badass guys, and the amount of times it's a cane. I mean, honestly, I don't even tee them up, even though I went to school there. But even we had Victor Cruz last week talk about Antrell Roll. We always have Michael Irvin back here, Sean Taylor. It is unbelievable how many guys are back there. I'm curious if you can explain what makes a South Florida guy different, especially when we see all these guys in the NFL. Every year they have a list of the most the counties with the most players. It's always Broward and Dade. What makes South Florida players special?
I think it's pretty simple. I think a lot of places play football down here in South Florida. They live it. They live and die by it, and they're playing since they're knee high. If you had a chance to take a ride down by the parks on the weekends and see the amount of football being played, and then see a bunch of local Pro Bowlers back in town, Hall of Famers back in town, coaching these little dudes. I mean, it's in the blood, it's in the DNA, it's life down here.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And they always, so many of those guys give back. So many of these guys are just doing, again, Tropical Park at 8 a.m. They're out there 1 year after they're making a Pro Bowl and they're doing it. It's just unbelievable. You obviously have an unbelievable quarterback who has played the position at a level I haven't seen University of Miami in a long, long time. We're an NFL show. Obviously, he's going to be in the mix to be one of the top quarterbacks in just a few months here in the NFL. I think we had an NBC analyst on Monday or on Friday who said he's going to be QB1 in the draft. In a couple months here, when NFL teams call you about Cam Ward, you say what, Mario?
I'm not telling you he has another year and he's coming back. No, I've been lucky to be around some great players. This guy, he is really like one of one. His mindset is that of a linebacker that's trying to kick your ass on every single play. That's what he is. He's an alpha dog. He wants to do nothing but win, is completely disinterested in personal accolades. He just wants to push people around him. He wants to make people better. He's like, the elite guys, they have a common trait. One of the common traits they all have, I would say, is they're just restless. They're just always uncomfortable, and they make people around them uncomfortable in the right kind of way because he pushes people and he pushes himself, holds himself to a really high standard. Awesome leader, awesome human being. And when the lights are on, brother, there's, the confidence in him is off the charts because of what he does, not just because of what he says.
Fascinating. Is there an element to his game? Obviously, he has a couple of mistakes against VT, against Cal, but you want him taking those chances, right? I mean, it reminds me a little bit of Josh Allen, where it's like you're going to keep pushing the envelope because you're trying to make stuff happen, and obviously you want to limit those, rein those in. But that's just who he is a guy who just tries to make things happen. And from the outside looking in, it feels like you kind of got to expect a little bit of that.
Well, I think and I hope that when the NFL watches tape on him, they look at two things. Number one, that he came back to college to prove himself that he can lead a team to be a winner. Okay, because you look at in his past history, he's always been playing from behind, right? And the supporting cast maybe just wasn't up to a certain level where he could lead and sometimes play from ahead, extend leads, and that kind of stuff. He's had a chance here to play from ahead, play from behind, bring us back in some really, really tough situations. So, and in terms of him, risk taken, I mean, these aren't just kind of guess and just throw one up. Everything he does has a rhyme and a reason, and he does it in practice. There's complete confidence in what he does and what he's going to continue doing, because we've been watching out here on this practice field like every day in spring ball, all summer in fall camp, and going, holy bleep, I can't wait till this guy gets to do it live.
Yeah, it's really incredible. You mentioned the freshmen. Obviously, you have Ruben Bain last year, Francis last year, this year, OJ Federic. And I'm curious if are freshman body types changing, or is if you guys just hit on a couple of these guys who can play right away? Like, it just feels like every level of football guys are coming in better, more prepared, physically better. Is that a trend, or is that just a special group of guys?
Oh, it is. I mean, when I grew up, I mean, you had to like sell encyclopedias in the summertime and then show up to camp. These guys are like, they're working out and they have personal trainers since they're 5, 6, 7 years old, and they're playing ball like nonstop. And strength and conditioning levels right now and nutrition and sports science are taking physical development to a whole new level. Sports psychology is taking the mental part of the game to a new level, and we're boat loaded on both those fronts right there. So, these guys come in, with a chip on their shoulder, but they are physically ready to contribute right away.
Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words: Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Best high school player you've ever seen?
I've seen a lot. And there's some that just absolutely blow you away. I mean, I still have VHS tapes. That's dating me a little bit right there. I still have VHS tapes of some guys, but I'm going to have to give it to one, and I think everyone would agree. May he rest in peace, Sean Taylor. Yeah, complete and utter, just flat out badass, knocking people around to the point where, I mean, I'm surprised parents would let their kids play against him. Man, he affected the game in every possible, imaginable way, offense, defense, special teams, just a completely dominant football player.
I want to get into, you developed and recruited so many NFL guys, and we could spend an hour just going through all of them. But there's a couple I want to highlight here. I want to start with Penei Sewell. Obviously, it looks like an elite receiver somehow after Sunday's game, but that's just kind of the kind of athleticism he has. And what's funny to me, I was in Detroit for Dan Campbell's first training camp. And one of the things I saw him light up, because it was the first day in pads, and Penei Sewell was out there, and he said, man, hitting again is like water in the desert, right? And that mentality there, he got Dan Campbell so fired up, but like that gets any coach fired up. And I'm curious, any stories stick out as far as just how special of a player he is, an athlete, a guy, a hitter, wherever you want to go with it.
Yeah, that guy, when he was drafted by the Lions and knowing Coach Campbell, man, I couldn't be happier, because that was a perfect fit. Because those two guys are just, in terms of football, they are goons. They are all about kicking someone's butt. And they're super smart, and they're competitive, and they're awesome. And on the flight and taking the job as the assistant head coach at Oregon, I remember receiving a text, hey, you got to look at this guy, and it was Penei Sewell. I'm like, whatever we got to do, we got to get this guy. And insane recruiting process. We weren't very good upon arrival. And I'm out of bullets recruiting wise. I'm out of sells, pitches, and I can't even go visit him anymore because I was promoted to the head coaching position. And I'm like, what do we do here? And so anyways, long story cut sideways, big staff meeting. No one has a good idea. So decided to take the graduate assistant and dress him up as the mascot and put him on a plane and send him over there. It's now illegal. That's a violation. Can't do that anymore. But There's a great picture of Penei right beside the duck, and he's not very happy, but he did sign with us. But no, he was, man, that guy, I remember bringing him in, sitting him down. He's about 374 pounds upon arrival and saying, hey, man, we do things the right way here. Day one, you're going to have to be the third teamer. All right. And you're going to have to work your way up. And about a day later, it's like, hey, man, that third team discussion, we're going to change that. And you're going with the first team now. So it didn't take long for him to prove himself as being that guy. But my Lord, what power, what strength, incredible upbringing. All right. Yeah. Arlene, Gabe Sr., oh, my God, off the charts human beings, tough, hard-nosed parents that raised an absolute stud. And, brother, that guy in practice was an absolute just joy to be around because he would try to whoop somebody's ass every single part of practice all day long.
Wow, that's amazing. By the way, I understand why it's a violation. There is some graduate assistant right now who's so happy that he's not going to dress up like Sebastian the Ibis the next couple of months. I'll say that.
Yeah, it was totally forced. I'm sure he'll.
All right, let's get to Saban. Obviously, you guys had a very funny moment the other day on game day. It was very, very funny about you protecting him from the Dolphins fans. But obviously, anytime anybody has coached with a Nick Saban or coached under or played under a Bill Belichick, I always want to find out what the most impressive thing you learned about football from them was. And it was actually kind of funny. I had Bryce Young on a couple of years ago, and he started to tell a story. He was at Alabama at the time. He started to tell a story, and then in the middle of it, he stopped. And he said, I can't finish this story. Coach Saban will be so mad at me. And I was like, you know what? That's good coaching. It's that Saban is drilled in that you can't actually teach him. You can't actually tell what he taught him. But I'm curious, just from being around him, what you learned about football from not only Saban, but just being around that many NFL guys that you helped bring into Tuscaloosa.
Well, I think the blueprint for the entire year, that format is off the charts. I mean, you're talking about the winter conditioning program, the fourth quarter program, the rep count, the regimentation for spring ball, and how that leads into the summer, and then your player-led workouts, and then going into training camp and preparing for game one. I thought all that was like elite. But I thought the mentality he brought to the office every day was what really was. That was a secret sauce. Yeah. Like, that guy refused to allow complacency to creep into the program. And if he felt just a tinge of it, oh my God, God help you. Like, we were convinced like your name was on the counter on a particular day. And that day, God help you, because you are not going to do anything right. And you're going to get your butt absolutely ripped from the time you step in the office to the time you leave. And it's a test. But he kept everyone on edge, and he pushed everyone, and he set up competitive opportunities between coaches for them to fight for opportunities. And I thought that was brilliant, because you can't expect your players to compete when your coaches don't.
Right.
So
that's fascinating.
A lot. Yeah, man. No, he was awesome. I nothing but great things to say about him. But he cannot speak Spanish, and I had to protect him.
Could you give me an example of something he would do, just in the vaguest terms, if you want, just as far as how he would kind of get coaches to compete against each other?
Oh my! Well, come down to the recruiting meeting. That's a ginormous board, and you've got your notes piled up, man. You've jotted down everything from the house cat's name to the cousin who works, at the dollar store, who has a heavy influence on him. So you really, you really want to push your guys. And me, I want to sign 20 linemen every single year. I never want to be, at a deficit there. And so when you're up, the pressure's on, the questions are coming, and they're coming 100 miles per hour. And you could tell I'm trying to sign 30 linemen. And he looks over and he says, hey man, you know what happens to pigs? And I could feel Kirby Smart next to me going, like, something's going to happen. I'm going to get it. So I said, no, coach, what happens to pigs? He goes, they get slaughtered because you're greedy and you're being a pig and you're about to get slaughtered. In other words, telling me, hey, man, we got to sign more than just linemen in a class of 25. We got to sign quarterbacks. We got to sign running backs.
Yep.
But I also think that he appreciated the fact that I was going to be aggressive. And he told me it was my job to make him have the difficult decisions of bringing great players to the table and distinguishing between the elite ones and the great ones. And so I learned a ton on what a difference that can make as it relates to your roster, and how that translates to tight fourth quarter games when two teams are battling for it all.
That's amazing. First of all, two quick ones for you. First one is, it's interesting to me because in this portal era, and you guys brought in so many great players in the portal, Cam Ward being among them, obviously Mish Powell on the defensive side of the ball. But is there we've had this in the NFL where, training camp isn't what it used to be, all that stuff. You can't do the Junction Boys anymore. And it feels like now September football and as part of October in the NFL has become a little bit more like just trying to figure out your identity. When you're integrating so many guys in, and you've had success with it over the past 6 weeks, what's the key to starting fast when some of these guys are still getting up to speed? Training camp just can't be the be all end all. How have you managed that, Mark?
Yeah, it's the summer. The player led workouts and them having like a plan and a blueprint for that is what's key, because by the time they get to training camp, they've installed everything twice.
Yeah.
That's about, 8-9 weeks on their own. And training camp for us, it is an old school training camp. It is just like Coach Saban ran it. It's just like Coach Jimmy Johnson ran it here at Miami back in the day. I mean, Howard Snellenberger. That's how we run things, and that's how we continue to run things. So that's what helps everything gel together. And the transfer portal guys we took are guys that had experience. That was very different for us. There's a lot of high-profile names out there that maybe haven't played as much that are good players. But for us, if we were going to go and play at the Swamp game one, we needed to have a seasoned quarterback. We needed to have a seasoned O-line and wide receivers and tight end. We needed to have guys on the roster that could handle an environment, the noise, the distractions, and just go. And a lot of them played in similar systems to what we have. So it was very particular and specific as it relates to who we actually went after in the portal.
Very interesting. All right, last thing we do with everybody, it's the board behind us. It's called Badasses.
Badass.
You've got a lot to pick from because you were a Hurricane in the late 80s, early 90s. You were at Oregon, obviously bringing in all those NFL guys. You were at Alabama. You were at FIU, where you had T.Y. Hilton and a bunch of other guys who managed the NFL. You got a lot to pick from. You have the floor, Mario Cristobal.
Well, can I pick a couple or just ask?
Sure.
Favorite player of all time, Jack Lambert.
Oh.
All day, every day. Still have my Jack Lambert jersey, man. I want to be him. Drafted at 6'4", 208 pounds, same dimensions as Al Toon. I was a freak about just memorizing stuff like that. And I love the way he played. I have all his clips, all his posters, all the pictures, all that stuff.
Love that.
Baddest ass, most influenced guy ever, Dennis Lavelle, my high school coach.
Wow.
The baddest, the toughest. He looks like Sensei Kreese from Cobra Kai. And he can absolutely whoop anybody's ass on the face of the earth. Still alive. Baddest Hurricane, man. I can't answer that without getting 400 text messages, all kinds of names for not choosing them. I just, I think to honor and the right way and the right person to choose for that, again, is Sean Taylor.
Yep. I mean, there's nobody like it. The respect he commanded in college and the NFL, it's just unparalleled. And I think that speaks for itself that you're not going to get 400 text messages because that's the correct answer.
I'll get a couple still. You know how these.
Who's the number one guy who's going to text you and be like, come on, man, where was I on the badass list?
If I say one, I'll add exponentially add more to the table. So no, I've been blessed, man. I was just an okay player, but I was surrounded by some absolute studs here and learned a ton. The greatest experience of my life was being a Miami Hurricane, and coming back to Miami had everything to do with the life-changing experience. And I owe it to the University of Miami. I owe it to the city. I owe it to the Hurricanes, past and present, to be here and do my best to be a part of bringing Miami to where it needs to be.
Well, number 6 team in the country, got Louisville this weekend. You've done a lot of work in the last 3 years. Thank you, Mario.
Thank you. Appreciate you.